If you feel like it's all too much, it is. Like, it doesn't really matter what your sister can manage or what you grew up with or what your favorite celebrity's home looks like. She has help. You have to decide for yourself, like, what do you want your life to look like? What do you want your experience to be day to day? How do you want to show up for your family or your kids or the people that you love most? The stuff takes a toll, and that's okay. I am naturally actually a really organized and sort of process-oriented person. And even despite that, I couldn't handle it all. I've heard a lot of people say that when they can't manage their house, they assume it's about them, and I really don't think that's true. I think our lives have become outsized. So now I'm going to take you through a bunch of things that you can declutter today. I've just got a pile of stuff that I'm planning to declutter. Things that I've been allowing to accrue and build up in our garage. It's actually getting ridiculous and like hard to walk in there. So after this video, they are going. I'm gonna start off with clothing, things that don't fit or that have been outgrown. So in the case of kids, things that have been outgrown, gotta go. Things that don't fit, either they're too small or they're too big. Whatever it is, it's taking up space in your closet, in your mind. It might be making you feel bad. Whatever it is, get rid of it. At the very least, get it out of your closet. Like, at the very least, put it in a to be determined bin, stick it in storage. But if you're feeling ready to like make the cut, like, get it out of here. Anything that has a pattern or color that you don't like, even if the fit is good, even if you like the fabric and the feel of the fabric, you're not gonna wear it if you don't actually like the pattern. All right. Go. I didn't buy that. That was something that my mom gave me. She knew I might declutter it. Thank you, Mom. Very generous. I did like one of the dresses you gave me. More patterns and colors that I can't live the tie-dye life. If it needs, here's a fly, clothing that needs to be altered. Either make it a priority for this week or get rid of it by Sunday. Anything that is just too fancy for your lifestyle. Look at these little corduroys. I'm never gonna put my kid in that. We're not doing that. Holiday or occasion themed clothing. It just seems like a lot to me. Clothing that is currently seasonally inappropriate. Either donate it if you don't think it's something that you're gonna be using next year, or get it into storage and get it out of your closet. Just getting to live with a smaller wardrobe is a really great way to encourage more decluttering and minimizing of your closet down the road. Hand-me-downs that just didn't work out for one reason or another. I have noticed that I really prefer, when I'm, done with clothes for my kids, I really prefer to give them to people I know. It's just sort of reassuring, and I might have some emotional attachment to the clothes, so the idea that they're gonna get used by a friend is really encouraging to me. Now, having said that, I barely remember the clothes once I've given them away. So the way I think about it when I receive things that we don't end up using is that I am essentially letting go of the thing that my friend was struggling to let go of. It's kind of like doing them a little bit of a service. And I would feel exactly the same way if one of my friends gave away an item of clothing or a toy or something like that that I gave them for their kids. So anyway, those can go now. Well, this is a great example of hand-me-downs for an adult that didn't work out. All right, now we're talking about decor. Okay, so it's October when I'm filming this. I think I'll be posting it next week. So it's about mid-October. Now is actually a perfect time to donate decorations for upcoming holidays. So Thanksgiving and Christmas, go through those bins, pull out the stuff that you haven't used in recent years or that it's just not something that you're excited about using anymore. Get it over to the donation center. They'll be more likely to be able to sell it if you donate it this time of year. Used up candles or incense or essential oils, just sort of any of that fragrance-based stuff. Decor that makes cleaning harder, and everyone has to sort of figure this out for themselves. How much dusting are they willing to do, or how many things are they willing to dust around? Everyone's decor tastes are really different, but if you have noticed that you're putting off dusting because your surfaces are covered with lots of knickknacks, it might be time to let some of that stuff go, because every time you see it, it's screaming at you, clean me, and it feels a little too overwhelming to actually take action on that. Any decor that's been sitting around waiting for a home. What I have found when I save picture frames or art, because we moved to a new house and I don't really have a place for it, or I'm not sure where I'm going to put it, or when I redo the bathroom, then I'll put it in there. Honestly, that stuff tends to just outlive my appreciation for it, and eventually it feels outdated and I just get rid of it anyway. So take a hard look at any decor that's just sitting around in storage or on the floor in your office that you're thinking, one day I'll hang it up or I'll find a place for it. You might not, and you might enjoy the freedom of just letting it go. Decor that is just for the sake of decor. So one of the things that I've done is I do like to have some decor. I like to have pretty pieces to look at in my house. I try to keep it limited, or at least limited to what I'm willing to manage, but I also try to use decor that has multiple purposes. So I use a lot of books in my decor. These are books that are sentimental for one reason or another, and I don't want to get rid of them, and they're pretty. So I use them. I use serving bowls and serving trays and baskets that have a dual purpose of holding my kids' things or my husband's things. Basically trying to make the decor work and earn the space that it has in my house. All right, we're gonna do toys next. This is such a fraught section, but I've been doing a little bit of research on this. Down the road, I am planning to do some decluttering in our toy closet. So I've got 16 things in this category. I'll try to go through them pretty quickly. So the first thing is toys that are getting little to no use. You'll have to determine what that is in your house, but typically if you've got kids and you keep an eye on what they play with, you kind of know what those toys are. Toys that have been forgotten about. They won't even notice. Just get rid of them. Give yourself a break. Toys that have too many small parts. That stuff just drives my husband and I crazy. For instance, my daughter got a mermaid Barbie from her uncle. Very sweet. She loved the gift. It came with all these tiny little bits of plastic jewelry and crowns and multiple tails. The reality is that she's had it for a few months now. Most of those pieces have been forgotten. I'm not getting rid of the Barbie, but I am getting rid of the extras because they just end up on the floor where my younger child could potentially eat them. Toys that are broken. That feels like an easy one. Like, are you really gonna fix that toy? No, you're not gonna fix that. Toys that you don't think are in your child's best interest. You'll have to define that for yourself. But if you've had sort of a nagging feeling of, I don't think this is a great toy for them for one reason or another, get rid of it. Part of the reason I bring this up is that I think sometimes we forget that we are the parents and we get to define our values and what we want our children to be exposed to. Had an uncle bought a mermaid Barbie for your daughter, you might have thought, that's actually not a toy that I want her to have. And if that's the case, you can decide that actually that toy isn't going to be sticking around, or at least not sticking around for long. Developmentally inappropriate toys. Another idea is conceptually fixed toys. So I got a lot of these from the book Simplicity Parenting, which I'll link below. I'm reading it right now, so I don't have a ton to say on it, but I will say that it's made me feel a lot more confident in my parenting, which is a nice surprise because often parenting books do not make me feel that way. But the idea with conceptually fixed toys, I think this comes out of Waldorf education, which the writer of the book did spend some time in Waldorf schools. Essentially, they observed that conceptually fixed toys don't allow as much flexibility and creativity in play. So something to think about. Another idea he had is toys that do too much and break too easily. The more the toy does for the child, the less learning and the less independence they have in the process of playing with it. And of course, if it breaks too easily, it's just not really setting you up for success. I actually bought a wooden toy train set, and it was kind of a cheap one, and it just wouldn't stay together, and my daughter couldn't build it on her own just because of how cheaply the parts were made. So that would be a good example of something, even though there are many great aspects of a toy like that, that would be an example of something that I might just sort of say, well, it was a failed attempt, nice try, but we're just gonna get rid of it because she really actually can't play with it independently, so it's not really serving her. Toys that overstimulate and entertain. This is actually a really good one that also came from the book, toys that claim developmental advantages. I think that I am very easily taken in by that kind of stuff. Fad toys. Basically, I think with fad toys, you're potentially setting yourself up where you just have to always be responding to the newest fad, and your child starts to develop that expectation that whatever the new fad is, whatever all the other kids are getting, they're always going to get that toy, which is going to create a lot more havoc and a lot more things to manage in your house. So if you already have it, you can let it go, and you can just sort of eliminate that practice in toy accumulation. I know it wouldn't necessarily be easy depending on the age of your child, but I believe in you. Dried out or used up art supplies, cheap art tools. For instance, every single time that we get a watercolor set, it comes with another cheap paintbrush. What happens right now is that I get a new watercolor palette, we use it up, we throw it away, but the paintbrush continues to hang around. And then we have gazillions of paintbrushes just sort of running around the house. Time to get rid of the paintbrushes. Toys that are too large for the space. You know, giant doll houses, I don't know, things like that. All right, so next we're gonna do the kitchen. Food that's past its prime. You know, and I say past its prime because there's things that are, you know, there's sell by dates versus use by dates versus expiration dates, and they all mean different things. So, you know, you might have to do a little bit of research to figure out what actually needs to go versus what you can continue to use, but let go of the guilt associated with food that didn't get used. Food that you just don't like, you can donate it. Appliances you bought and never used, or were given and you never used. You know, we all have to pay the stupid tax sometimes. It's okay. Cookbooks with overly complicated recipes or that require you to buy a lot of other tools and accessories for your kitchen. If you don't want to do it, like maybe it's just time to accept that the cookbook didn't work out. It was asking a little too much of you. Okay, this is just a bunch of miscellaneous stuff that I'm categorizing under randoms. Cleaning supplies that you don't like, that didn't live up to the hype, or that are just weirdly complicated to use. Like, if you're not using them, you can get rid of them. Gifts you were given that you don't like or really plan to use. I've been known to immediately declutter things that I got for Christmas, like the moment I get home. You can never be harder on gifts than I have been, so there's your permission. Extra buttons, snaps, just sort of like easily replaceable things that come with clothing, you know, in case it happens to fall off. Are you really gonna repair it? Are you gonna store it? Are you gonna keep track of it? Are you gonna remember that you have it? Like, that stuff is also just easily replaceable. You can go to the fabric store or wherever they sell that stuff and buy more if you need it. Leftovers from craft projects. If you don't expect to use it in the next 3 months, get rid of it. Trash. Sometimes we come home with pamphlets from church and, you know, we're not really keeping a scrapbook of our weekly church pamphlets. Like that goes in the recycling, it's paper. But you get the idea. Trash or recycling, that's an easy one. Do that first. Outdated technology, empties. So this is things like the lotion bottle that has just a little bit of lotion left at the bottom and the only way to get it out is like cut it open with a bread knife. Like, I just throw that away. Okay, and the last is what I'm calling categories, more broad categories of things that you can think about as opposed to like individual items. So anything you've been meaning to sell and anything that you did attempt to sell, but you had no takers. Duplicates, duplicate toys, duplicate serving dishes, duplicate kitchen items. You have to decide how many you're willing to have, but just going through your house and starting to assess how many duplicates do I have? Do I really need 6 serving bowls? You know, can I potentially take that down to 3? Anything that's been updated. So for instance, my husband was recently given a new golf caddy by his dad, so his old one is going to leave the house. Anything that you already decided to declutter and just never actually got rid of it. That was in a video in the past. Okay, this idea comes from the Minimal Mom. She says anything that isn't a definite yes. So like if it's not a definite yes, then it's a no. That's how you declutter really quickly. And that idea pairs really well with an idea from Joshua Becker, which is things that you can just get by without. I love that because it's starting to push you to think a little bit more strategically and starting to tap into your resourcefulness. Sometimes we don't realize how resourceful we actually are until we push ourselves to live with less things and to consider how things can be repurposed. This is kind of a big one, but things that are clutter catchers. So stuff with flat surfaces, baskets that are meant to contain things. I mean, they can be nice and I think they are useful, but how many of those are you going to have in your house? Because you could end up having, you know, half a dozen baskets that are just full of random nonsense all around your house, and then you don't know where anything is, and you know, it's leading to chaos. So something to consider is just how many clutter catchers are you going to allow in your house? The next item on the list is things from a past season of life. So we have this sheepskin, it's really lovely and soft, and we had it for when our babies were really little so that they could lay down on a flat surface on the ground, but you know, just sort of have that yummy, comfortable feeling underneath. And it was great, but we're past that season of life. And you know, I could keep it as decor, and I did for a while, but I've just decided that no, I'm okay without having it. I'd like the simplicity of, you know, one less item. So I'm going to be passing this on, and hopefully someone is really excited to find it. It's a nice piece. Excess organization and storage bins that you're just not using anymore. Books you've already read and don't expect to read again. Hated this one. Books you bought, thought you would read, and never read. This is actually not an example of that, but it is a good idea. Just be honest with yourself. If you bought the book and you thought, I'm definitely gonna read it, I'm gonna join the book club, I'm gonna be more educated on this very important subject if I do, and you've got that little fantasy attachment to it, it's okay to just accept that now is not the season, or you really weren't that interested, or you had the interest at one point and it has now flitted away and it's not coming back. Really, a lot of what we're doing with decluttering is we're releasing the guilt or even shame that we might feel around the process of letting things go, and we're forgiving ourselves. And this should probably be obvious, but things that you're just not using. You've had it around for years, it's a nice piece, but you're not using it. All right, that is a bunch of things. I don't know how many. I'll probably add it up later. But yeah, that is a bunch of things that you can let go of today. Thanks for stopping by. Until next time.